We have to start to understand that most people haven't done the work that you are doing, that we have done. Most people don't get coaching or go to therapy. Most people don't choose the path of self-awareness. Most people don't try to face traumas and painful experiences. Most people try to do whatever they can actually to avoid doing that kind of work. And when we try to understand somebody who hasn't done the work, who hasn't worked on themselves, who doesn't take accountability, who isn't self-aware, it can be very confusing for us because we would never treat others the way they may be treating us. But we have to remember that other people's actions and reactions aren't just about how they treat others, but also how they treat themselves. There's usually a lot more to the story than what meets the eye. And the more that you try to overthink about it, the more lost and confused and upset and disappointed and anxious that you're likely to become. Many of us have a hard time letting go and allowing things to be what they are and will be. And that's probably one of the most difficult things for us to do in our connections. We cannot control other people. We cannot control what somebody else does. What we can control is what we do with the information that somebody else gives us about their behavior, about their level of emotional intelligence, about their level of emotional availability. We cannot control those aspects of them, but we can control what we do with that information. True wisdom lies not just in knowing what to do, but in embracing how things are and making decisions that are going to be best for us in the end. Taking care of oneself might seem selfish to some, especially in a culture that often values sacrifice for others. However, if we don't prioritize our own mental and emotional health, we won't be in a position to genuinely help and be there for others. If we don't fill our own cups up first, if we don't take care of our mental, emotional well-being first, we don't have anything to be able to give to other people. And so taking care of yourself and doing what's best for you in connection, setting boundaries, making sure that you're choosing yourself, making sure that you're standing up for yourself, those things are actually very selfless. It's ultimately what is needed for us to be able to show up not only for ourselves, but our closest and most important relationships as well. Self-care and inner work are the most important things we can do to cultivate better and healthier relationships with the people we truly care about. Waiting on others to change, waiting on others to get their act together, waiting on others to finally show up for you. This is something many of us are so used to doing. It's a way that we often tend to try to maintain control of our relationships. At least when we're hoping for somebody to change or hoping for some sort of potential, at least there's still hope, right? At least there's hope because that's something we have direct control over, that we can hold on to. When we lose that potential, even though we're not necessarily losing anything except for what something could be to us, it feels like we're losing the opportunity altogether. That whatever it is that we were hoping for got taken from us, and we're never going to have that option to have it again. We may be thinking to ourselves, if I'm not waiting on someone else to change, then someone will never meet me where I'm at. And that is so far from the truth. We are able to attract into our lives the relationships that align with us. But in order for us to do that, we have to stop seeing people for what they could be and start seeing people for who they show us to be. Stop expecting people to meet you where you are and start accepting where they're at and then aligning your choices, decisions, and actions accordingly. What would it be like to let someone be who they are and adjust your proximity accordingly? It's so easy to get swept up into painful and often very predictable cycles with people. Something happens, we get disappointed by them, but then there's a part of you that goes, that makes sense. They showed me that this is who they are. They're telling you over and over again, whether it's through their choices, decisions, or actions, that they're not willing to change. Ultimately, it has nothing to do with you. People are just running from their own stuff. For someone to be willing to change, they have to take accountability for the fact that they need to. People deep in their shadow side, the fear-based aspects of themselves that they're maybe unaware of or feel shame around, often act from this unhealed space, leading to patterns of confusion and suffering. It's the part of us that's the most triggered, the most traumatized. When we allow the fear-based aspects of ourselves to dictate our choices, decisions, and actions, it will not turn out well for us. Developing an empowering orientation to fear is the way out of suffering. I had a client once ask me, isn't struggling the point of life? In a way, yes, that is the point of life, but struggling and suffering are not the same thing. You can struggle without suffering. We create our own suffering by allowing fear to decide for us. That is why a lot of people lack accountability, because they don't want to look at the parts of themselves that they don't love, the part of themselves that they're not proud of, that they might feel shame around. They don't want to face who they really are. People don't run or don't treat other people poorly because they feel good about themselves. People don't treat other people poorly because they love who they are. People treat other people poorly because of the opposite. They don't love who they are, they're not proud of themselves. Now, the problem is when those people who don't feel good about themselves start to make that everybody else's problem. They might lack emotional awareness, but somehow it's your fault for not being able to fix them or heal them or put up with that. Now, to be clear, I believe that we should love people through all stages of their healing. Absolutely. But we also have to remember that unconditional love does not equal unconditional tolerance. Loving someone for who they are and their current situation doesn't mean we also have to tolerate their behavior or their negative actions or treatment. Their baggage, their trauma, their emotional unavailability, they are not your burdens to bear. And the more that you try to take on somebody else's burdens, the more that you will end up disappointed, because you cannot heal other people. You cannot do for them what they are unwilling to do for themselves. Embracing personal and energetic accountability goes beyond just being aware. It requires that we also be willing to take accountability for our actions. That's a critical distinction between awareness and accountability.